Okay, so we are recording. Oh, Emily, thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great.
So excited. So, if any of you are following the ramp up to Invisible Warfare, uh, last night I had the opportunity to speak to three of Emily's group members, and she unfortunately could not be with us, but she agreed to have a chat tonight, another conversation, because I think when we're making a big decision to do something, like we can never have too many opinions.
As long as they all point in the same direction.
So, each person speaks to different people. So here we are. So I'm super happy that we're doing this.
Yeah,
Again,
me
to do
too.
it live didn't work, but we're recording it and we will share it into the world. So the the first question that I want to ask you. So let me just give some information before we start. Um, Invisible Warfare is a group that I teach and lead as a coach, and it's based on a book. Oh, called Invisible Warfare by Mona Miller. Mona was my teacher and guide for many, many years until she passed away in 2011. I worked with her for about 12 years, and all of her life's work in terms of what she taught is in this really extraordinary book. And at the end of 2018, I made the decision to start teaching her book because the work that she taught me, that I've been doing for 20 years, has really impacted me so profoundly that I think it's one of my jobs in the world to teach the work. And Emilie, along with her compadres, Tara Lee, Marisa, and Tyler, were in the first Invisible Warfare group. And we completed in June, and we can't stop talking to each other. So the next Invisible Warfare group is beginning. It'll be the third Invisible Warfare group, and it's starting next Monday. So we still have a few spots left. And so I wanted to share information about it for all of y'all. So, Emilie,
Hi.
my first question for you is, where were you in your life last November, December, when you decided to jump into this Invisible Warfare group? Where were you, and why did this seem like a good idea?
Yeah. So I was kind of like right in a few months into basically like a year of really kind of intense growth. So I was kind of at the beginning point of it and was looking for ways to kind of um, figure out how I wanted to grow, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it. And I also was in a place where, looking back, I didn't really realize just how unhappy I was. It's like I'm a positive person. It was, by all accounts, everything looked great. And in many ways, it really was. But there was just so much more for me. And I was starting to realize it at that point, and I was looking for something to help me get to where to the things that were like more for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it's
Like
interesting.
things were fine, it was not like I was like things were like fine, but
Right,
but then in retrospect, I was like so deeply unhappy.
right. They were fine, but they weren't extraordinary.
They weren't.
Yeah,
They weren't, and they actually weren't fine.
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's interesting that you say that because sometimes it's like you don't know what you don't know until you know.
Yeah, and I knew deep down, like my like my soul knew, or my the deep inner part of me knew, and had been kind of like craving this, and been going on this journey for a few months, and was like craving something more.
It's interesting because I remember when I first started doing this work, one of my challenges was I had like really severe panic disorder. And I didn't know, I knew that there was something wrong with me, but I didn't know what was wrong with me. Like, I knew the symptom was like anxiety attacks that were pretty severe and that were really impacting my life, but I didn't know, I just knew there was more. And it's why I took the journey, because I was like, I have to figure this out. Like, I feel fucked up. Like, I know something's wrong with me. There's a reason why this is happening to me. And I need to figure out what that's all about. And so that's kind of what took so I get that, it's like, I knew there was something somewhere, although no one could tell me that. So when I started doing this work and delving deeper, I was like, oh, okay, I understand now why I'm having panic attacks. It's really pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the biggest thing you learned about yourself that you didn't know?
That is such a hard question because I learned so much about myself that I didn't know, which is actually kind of crazy and terrifying when you look back at it, because you're like, how is it possible that I could have gone my entire life not knowing all these things about myself? It's kind of crazy. Like, I do a lot of yoga and like just all of these things that are in touch with myself. And I was big on like a gratitude practice and mindfulness. So I really felt like I knew myself, and I really didn't at all. I did on some level, but like there was so much deeper. So, what was the question? What did I learn about myself that I didn't know?
What was the biggest thing about yourself that you didn't know? In the invisible warfare journey.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to start talking about other things. The biggest thing I learned about myself that I didn't know, I guess, just how much your past self impacts your future self. Like just how much of every day we spend getting triggered by things. I don't mean triggered. I mean like getting like the parts of us that kind of aren't necessarily healed or processed. They rear their heads all the time in the things that make us angry or sad or upset, even if it's like the road rage you get or the, whatever it is, like the ways that I respond to things is so tied to events that have happened that I just haven't, that are kind of painful to face. And so realizing that actually those aren't painful at all. They are, but they're actually really powerful, and they're really a lot of guidance in them. And so not to be scared of those things anymore. And there's so much power that we have.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like once we open up to saying like, okay, I'm open to knowing what it is that's causing this. It's like, oh yeah, because it holds a lot of power over us. We may not even know that it exists, but then once we do, it can hold a lot of power over us. And then it's like, oh, okay. I actually I did some serious processing today. I needed it. I was feeling super emotional yesterday, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to continue on in my life if I don't do something. And so I did, the physical rinsing. And it was like, wow, it's interesting because like for me, I like went back to the past. So for those of you that don't know about what we do, a lot of the work is consciously time traveling, because we time travel all the time. Like we as human beings are living in the past, present, and the future continuously, whether we know it or not. And so one of the big ideas of the many ideas that are in invisible warfare is this idea of consciously time traveling, so that you can sort of be one step ahead of whatever is coming up for you. So it was interesting because I did my process, and I was fully like a little kid at my house growing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, like I could never have conjured that had I not been willing to sort of do the process and just go after it. And it's interesting because in this experience, I had some, I didn't necessarily have clarity that I can articulate. It was just like whatever the stress and the pressure that was in my body this last couple of days is not there anymore.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me, this doesn't really answer your question, but I'm going to kind of answer a different question,
Please.
Was morning pages and processing every day and really being committed to that. So almost pretty much every morning, unless there's something crazy going on, I write 3 full pages in the journal, and I always end it with I just learned and I feel, so that I like really make sure to integrate it. And I cannot tell you how life-changing it is. It's such a simple thing, but it's like, it's crazy. There's so much in your subconscious when you wake up, and it's just kind of there for you. And then it changes the entire way I go about my day. And it, you know, when you do it daily, it gives you insight into the things that you're continually thinking about kind of every day. And then you're like, oh, actually, that's a thing for me. That's a thing to address. And here I am addressing it. It's really powerful. So that's been huge for me.
So just to speak to that a little bit too, in the invisible warfare work, there's a ton of writing. I mean, a ton. I don't know if I should say ton because it might scare people, but part of the processing is writing. So you're getting what's in your head, your emotions and your thinking and your feelings out onto paper. And part of what I have done in my personal process is taken that writing about our thinking and feeling, and marrying it with Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way. One of her tenements is to do morning pages, which is 3 notebook pages handwritten every morning, first thing you do when you get up. And so I've done The Artist's Way. And so I kind of married the two. And I do the morning pages and do the emotional processing work, the feeling and thinking work in that intentionally. Because you could just, I guess, write about, I mean, I have in the past just written about anything, but I really try to process my feelings when I do my writing. And Emilie has taken that on, and it's been amazing. Life-changing.
Yeah, hugely. Huge difference.
So what would you say the biggest impact, like where are you now? Like having gone through the 6-month program, done the work, been with your crew, greatest crew ever, like where'd you end up? Because that's what everyone wants to know. Like, what am I going to get out of this shit? Like, shit.
My life could not look
and like time, money, energy. Like, what do I get out of it? Like, how is this possibly worth it? Because I think that's what everybody really wants to know. Not that they're going to be the same as yours, but curious to know what yours is.
My life could not look more different in a positive way. I moved to a new city, upgraded my apartment, upgraded.
Look at that view of Chicago she's got, people.
I, like, pretty much every area of my life has changed in a positive way. I'm trying to think of like more specific things, but basically everything is different and everything is better in pretty much every category: professionally, personally, spiritually, intellectually, financially. Like, it's insane.
What's the one thing that like you didn't think was possible to change that has changed?
You know, one thing I didn't come in thinking about was my attitude towards abundance and finance and money. Like, that was not even on my radar. I just kind of accepted where I was with that. And the one totally unexpected bonus of going through this was realizing just how much of a scarcity mindset I was in and shifting that into an abundance mindset. And the difference has been amazing. It's like that, you know, that alone has been incredible. So yeah, that's one thing for sure. And I could say the same thing about all the other examples too. All the other areas.
Amazing. So in the work that we do in Invisible Warfare, we look at all of the realms, like all parts of us: spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, financial, and then intuitive, psychic, and telepathic. So we're looking at ourselves in like this full spectrum way, not just one aspect of ourselves. That's why I say people are always like, well, this, like, how does this work? Like, what does this have to do with me in business? And I do a lot of business coaching, and I use this kind of work when I do my one-to-one coaching as well with people in business, because at the end of the day, it's like we got to show up as ourselves in any context of our lives. So this work benefits that. And it was like, for me, one way that really allowed me to show up super powerfully from a business perspective was when I was doing this work. I was an executive at Paramount, and I had a lot of challenges in that, feeling powerful in a world as a young woman, with mostly older men. And this work really helped me to like step into my own and got me tons of great opportunities that I never expected. Because, remember, I went into work because I was having panic attacks. And like came out with all kinds of other things. So it's cool because it is like this really full spectrum thing. What else do we want to know?
Oh, also the group. Like the group is amazing. I didn't even say that as part of it, but that's like one of the biggest things, was bonding with this amazing group of people.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that, because I think that sometimes scares people. Like, and it was interesting because Marisa really talked pretty candidly about it last night, about how she, has a hard time opening up. So like, being at a group setting is like, holy shit, it's really there. So yeah, what was that like for you? And what did you think it was going to be like? And then what did it become?
Yeah, looking back, I take it for granted now that we're so close with the group and that we talk really openly. At the beginning, that's terrifying. That was really, really terrifying. I totally forgot until just now, looking back. You're with a group of strangers and you're just like, I'm supposed to bare my soul. And then it turns out actually that saying things out loud to people and being vulnerable and like actually growing as a group, it enables other people to do the same. So like when somebody in the group was brave and would share something, then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I totally relate to that. And now I feel brave enough to share my own perspective as well. So yeah, it really does transform. And like the group is so supportive and respectful that it does become, easier to share. And it's also amazing to do it in that group setting, because it is remarkable just how much we all go through similarly that we don't share with each other, that we all kind of internalize silently. And then somebody says something, you're like, oh my gosh, they feel the exact same way I do, in a way that I was really afraid or ashamed to say, but it turns out other people feel this way too. And it's really freeing and amazing to know that other people feel that way. Really empowering.
Yeah, it's something that I love about group work, because sometimes we can't get out of our own head. We're kind of narcissistic on some level. It's part of the human condition. Like, we think we're the only ones. And then when we start being able to step out of ourselves and really see somebody else and someone else's experience, it's like, wow. Wow. And I think what's incredible about it is that typically because we spend time not hanging out there, but just going there and clearing it out, going into the past, generally the things in the past that we're triggered by when we're time traveling are times when we weren't supported and we were really alone. And what's amazing about a group setting is that you're no longer alone. You're witnessed. It's like, and if you're witnessed, it really is not in your head anymore. Like, it's out there somewhere and other people are in it with you, right? So I think being in community and doing this kind of work, because in the traditional model, I mean, there's like group therapy and stuff, I guess, but traditionally people are one-to-one with somebody, a coach, a therapist, whatever. But if you get into this dynamic where it's like multiple people, it's like you can grow exponentially. There's some synergy that goes on.
Definitely.
And you're no longer in that space where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm all alone. Like, suddenly it's like people know your shit. Hello. And you can no longer pretend that it doesn't exist. Because they'll call you on it too.
True.
Busted. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. That's cool. What else? Is there anything else that stands out for you in the experience of doing this group work that you feel like you must share?
The other thing is that I think there's so much value in group work, and there's also value in individual work. And what's great about this was that it combines the two. Because you do work in a group, but then there is also individual stuff too. So it kind of gives you the opportunity to grow in both ways, because neither one is kind of enough on its own. Like sometimes you do just need one-on-one time for yourself. So just knowing that you're kind of supported by this group, but also by you throughout the process is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to support. So anything else? Anything else that you want to let people know or just want to say? And by the way, you're in no way obligated to say anything else. I'm just wondering if there's anything else in your heart that you want to share.
Yeah, I think the only thing that comes to mind is just, if you're watching this, it's probably because you want to do it, but you're on the fence about it. And if you're on the fence about it, then you should just do it, because you should give yourself that gift of doing it. And when you do it, you should really do it. Like, don't like go along for the ride, like actually, do yourself the favor of doing it.
Do it.
If you've gotten this far, like, you want to do it, so just do it. So, like,
what's funny is that last night I asked the question, like in 3 words, like, how would you sum up this experience or something? And no one did 3 words except for Tara Lee, and she said, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
And so I love that that's what a great resonance, right? Just do it.
Yeah. I think my 3 words are, I love it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for jumping on, and
yeah, happy to share
for a journey with everybody.
Yeah.
And I'll post this since we couldn't do it live, and if anybody has questions, I'm sure that you would be willing to answer for them.
Of course.
All right. Love you.
Love you.
Can you turn all your lights out so we can see the view of Chicago or not?
Alexa, turn off the kitchen lights.
Wow. Look what she's created.
Look what I have created. Look what we have created.
Oh my lands. Okay, which one?
Yeah, you can't see the Sears Tower, but it's over on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she didn't have that spot.
Oh, no, I did not.
In fact, it was something about a dorm at Harvard.
Oh, yes, that's what it was.
All right. Love you, Emilie.
Love you.
Okay. If anyone has any questions,
yeah, send them my way.
And the link will be in Facebook. If you want to get any more information, just direct message me. Okay. Love you.